Welcome to Dementia Air, a content channel devoted solely to exploring topics related to dementia. Dementia Air is a production of Beyond Dementia Coalition, a not-for-profit 501c3 which seeks to reduce stigma and help all of us not only recognize but also accept, assist, and embrace people living with dementia as valued and beloved members of the community. See the person beyond the disease. My name is Bruce Leyton, and I am your Dementia Air podcast host. And joining us today is Bill Wittel. Bill is CEO of Beyond Dementia Coalition. Bill is a retired, and Bill, I think this is a misnomer. I think you're probably working harder than ever, but Bill is a retired IT sales management professional with 40 years in business development for leading hardware and software firms. And Bill's harnessed that know-how, and it really is a know-how of building foundational business partnerships in a complex IT world to support his passion to serve the community and support of education programs related to dementia by building Dementia Coalition to what it is today.
Yes, thank you very much, Bruce.
So we're here to talk about your morning ritual, which includes the practice of yoga, stretching, breathing exercises, and so on. And so first I've got to ask you, Bill, I know your day is packed. Did you actually get your morning practices and ritual in today?
I sure did.
Oh,
Bruce,
great.
I did. And if I can just take you back on how I got started with this.
So go ahead.
Yes. So back in 2014, my wife Ellen was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We went down that journey until she passed in February 10th of 2021. When she was diagnosed, all of a sudden our world changed and it got smaller. And I realized to be the best caregiver I could be, I needed to stay healthy. I needed to stay in shape. And I had to have time for myself because caregiving is a 24/7 job, or I won't say job, caring duty, if you will. So what I would do is get up early in the morning at 4:30, and I still do that. Ellen would wake up at 8, and I would take time for myself to prepare for the day. The way I did that, I started with a devotional, which I still do as did today. And today, just as an example, I listen to gospel music, and then I found on YouTube um, old Billy Graham sermon, and today it was on what it's like to be in heaven. So that takes about 30 minutes, and then after that, I do breathing exercises. And I found again back in 2014 Wim Hof, which is a breathing exercise. And actually, he is known worldwide as the Iceman. You might want to Google Wim Hof. And that breathing exercise allows me to not only breathe, and it's a healthy exercise for your autonomic immune system, but also meditate during that breathing exercise. Following that, as I did this morning, and I did then, I do stretching and yoga, and that's another 30 minutes. So that's about an hour and a half to prepare myself for the day. That's what I did every day. I continue to do that at least 5 times a week. But that prepared me. So when Ellen would awaken at 8 or 8:30, I'm ready. I'm ready to get the best care I possibly can.
So Bill, let me ask you a quick question. So I know you always took a look at yourself as something that needed to be cared for, and you were, involved in self-care, and these practices aren't necessarily new to you. What changed in 2014 in terms of the focus on ritual, which I think is different than practice? Ritual probably connects you to something higher than yourself, and also if you can go through the situation in terms of stress with the diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's, did that change things for you? Can you talk about that in terms of stress levels and what happened?
Yes, it's interesting you asked that question because as soon as that diagnosis happens, my adrenaline level, stress, got jacked up, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And from the time that the diagnosis given to us until the day that Ellen actually left to be with the Lord, that stress level was at high intensity, higher than I realized. And it affected me throughout the journey. And there are times when I felt like I had dementia because not only having the stress, but also spending most of my day with someone who who's lost their cognitive ability. So you're not having that intellectual stimulation with the outside world. You kind of cycle down too, as within the world of dementia. So all these factors added up to where I needed to have a ritual where I'm taking care of myself, taking care of Ellen, and just doing the best I can on a day-to-day basis. When she finally passed, the adrenaline level the next day immediately dropped when I awakened. I knew that she was in a better place, I'm in a better place, and just cycled down. So I didn't
So,
really realize that for all those years, you get accustomed to anything. And until it's finally over, can you look back and reflect how stressful it was?
yeah. But you continue the practice today, right? I mean,
I sure do.
yeah, the
I
stress
really
of
do.
every,
And thank you
God,
for in your introduction, you made about being busy. Yes, I'm busier today, I think, than even when I was during my career because it's kind of a morning, noon, and night a situation in that sometimes I'm contacted by people who just need help or need advice or direction on what to do next in their stages, or they just been diagnosed, or loved one diagnosed. So it's kind of like I'm on call, and I was on call in my career the way I am now. But I love it. It's passionate, and it's a
yeah.
way to give back.
And thank you for that, Bill. Truly, truly appreciate it. I was with somebody yesterday, and they asked me what I do in terms of volunteer work, and I am on the board of Beyond Dementia Coalition. And I started to describe the work, and they said, "Oh, you know Bill Wittel then?" I go, "Okay, that's all. That's where I need to
Well,
start. I work with Bill Wittel, and then everything else falls into place." And I often say if Bill doesn't know you, he soon will, or you'll soon know Bill, given your prominence in the community. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Um, I'd
well,
like to
thank
go.
you, Bruce. We moved here in 1973, so over the years, we've made a lot of friends and contacts through socially and at church, and it's just nice to have those contacts and friends that you can turn back and help in their time of need.
It's an amazing community. If you can't tell, we I moved from New York. This is for our audience. So you can probably hear the New York accent back in '96. We were down in Roswell forever and decided to move up to Gainesville. We were looking to retire and found a great community in Crestwind. And I find Gainesville and Hall County, Gainesville in particular, to be just a phenomenal place to live. And the spirit of giving and caring is tremendous in this community. Uh, Bill, I'd like to go back to it might not be related to your practice or your ritual, but the diagnosis for Ellen came in 2014. And what I often hear from those that are the caregivers and finding themselves as caregivers for the first time is that they don't really get any advice from the neurologist, if that's where the diagnosis has come from, or their primary care physician. And the sentiment is, well, I've got the diagnosis and we can deal with it, right? Can you tell me something about that moment? And you said your stress levels went
Yes.
up. W- Yeah, so it sounded like you didn't necessarily have the support that you needed and didn't know that you didn't have the support. Can you tell us something about that moment and that time and what it meant to you and how you found your way to the right resources?
Sure, Bruce. We got off to a bad start with our neurologist. I'll just be blunt with you on that. The first neurologist we met with, Ellen was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. So immediately, being the policy person, I thought, well, shoot, I can take care of this. We can manage to this. So I got involved in holistic medicine and buying supplements and going down that route. The neurologist never, from day one, was upfront with us, with Ellen or me, and saying, "This road is going to end to death." Now you can say it in better terms, but this isn't going to end well. Now, yeah, she had mild cognitive impairment, but she hadn't been tested for what dementia disease she had. And it wasn't until, I say, we saw him for 2 months before I finally found another neurologist who immediately had her tested for what dementia, Alzheimer's, and it was about a 4 hour test, came back with that diagnosis. So then we had a pathway. But so I was in denial in one sense because he wasn't straightforward. I was definitely in denial. And even after the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, I was still in denial for a little bit longer until there was a precipitating event where I accepted it.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I guess last question I wanted to ask. First, I'm going to say something that the practices that you use as part of your ritual are not necessarily for everyone. Is that a correct statement? And nor are we making a recommendation here that anybody should do this. You should always check with your doctor. Is
No,
this
yes,
appropriate for you?
thank
Yeah.
you for that. No, I think you have to find your own course of action to where you're taking care of yourself, but you have to find time to take care of yourself. I mean, that could be going out and playing golf or knitting or whatever, but spiritually, in my case, I really couldn't have done it without with our good Lord's guidance. So that just happens to be in my ritual. But you have to do it, and you have to do it on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, Bill, I appreciate your input. I always, this is kind of strange to say, but I find comfort when you tell me about your ritual and the fact that you've gone through your ritual because I know it helps. I've got my own ritual that I go through. I should probably focus a little more on making sure it is daily. I find so often we can get caught up in our daily activities without thinking about it, and you jump out of bed and you go start doing what you need to do. But thank you for giving this grounding and this orientation to self-care and how we can develop rituals around it and make us better people in the work that we do in the community. So, Bill, thank you for being with
Well,
us. I appreciate it.
well, Bruce, thank you. And finally, yes, as far as my ritual is concerned, I'll be off to Francis Meadows to swim 1,000 yards here this afternoon, and I try to do that 3 times a week. So
You are,
with that, I appreciate it.
yeah, you are amazing. And by the way, so we should probably close by saying, we say it's not for everybody, but I do want to share. Do you want to share your age, or do you care not to?
Yeah, no, I'm proud to be an octogenarian. I turned 80 February 6th.
And you keep on keeping on. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bruce.
Beyond Dementia Coalition is on a quest to close the dementia preparedness gap we face. To get there, we sure could use your support as a donor or a volunteer. To get involved, please go to beyonddementiacoalition.org. All donations are tax deductible, and be sure to subscribe to our mailing list to receive our monthly newsletter in your inbox, where we'll share new podcasts, fact sheets, webinars, blogs, and other dementia-related content. This is Dementia Air. See the person beyond the disease.